To discuss the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, I am being joined by Ruslan Stefanov, Program Director and Chief Economist at the Center for the Study of Democracy. Good evening, sir. I'm sorry, it just sort of took me a while to get the details straight. But let me now go to the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. I guess it's important to stress for our viewers that it is separate from NATO proper, right? So what can this Parliamentary Assembly actually do?
Well, it certainly sets the broad strategic guidelines, and in that respect, it's very important because these are people that are also kind of elected directly by the constituencies in all the countries. So it is important that what we see, at least that was today in some of the committee meetings, the different committees of the Parliamentary Assembly are meeting today and tomorrow, and then on Monday is the meeting of the Parliamentary Assembly proper. So what we heard is a shared message of unanimity, a shared message that Russia is an existential threat, and that we must stand by Ukraine and be ready to defend, of course, not only Ukraine but also the whole of the NATO alliance.
Right. We also heard that they're going to issue some recommendations for the NATO summit in Washington. So I wonder what kind of recommendations can we expect? Do you have any?
Right.
Guesses?
I think it's in that respect, this is probably the most important task of the assembly. Because they're going to prepare the meeting in Washington. And I think what we're going to hear is, despite there have been some very rare voices, I think there's going to be a message of unanimity that Europe and the US, so the NATO alliance, should be very clear about its task in defending Ukraine on all sorts of threats, including standing together, on economic security threats, on hybrid threats, and on defense, of course, first and foremost, defense. But again, I think they're going to also issue a statement that I think is going to cover also all these threats that we see in terms of the disinformation propaganda that come out of Russia every so often. And I think they're going to just stress that NATO is ready to kind of continue to support Ukraine, whatever it takes, and to show that it's actually going to have a much better preparedness in the future year than it had last year, for example.
Right, but I wonder if this meeting of parliamentarians can also translate into some changes within particular countries that, of course, will perhaps also affect NATO. I mean, for instance, defense spending, increased defense spending. Do you think that this could be one of the topics?
I think there is a clear trend towards spending more. I mean, first, starting with the membership of Finland and Sweden, there is a clear understanding that the threat is very real and present. And I think there is understanding now that Russia is not going to contain itself with Ukraine alone. And so if NATO doesn't stand firm on Ukraine, including economically and including in this hybrid warfare domain, there is no way the alliance is going to continue to provide the security for its citizens. So I'm certain that we're going to see more pressure for countries to continue this increase in the budget, because right now, if we look at the budgetary figures in particular for this year, Russia is already on par with the whole of the European members of NATO. So that means that Europe in particular is lagging considerably behind Russia's wartime economy. And I think this is ringing some alarm bells already. And I think that we're going to see stepping up of this drive towards faster, quicker, bringing up of resources. I think there are already a lot of commitments being made by member states, but I think we're going to see more ideas of how this could come quicker to the ground, quicker to the armies of the NATO alliance, and of course to the defense industry, so that Europe in particular, but also in the US, will be much better prepared in meeting the needs of Ukraine immediately, but also the eastern flank of the alliance.
Right. I mean, the fact that Russia is able to spend so much, I guess it just shows how ineffective the Western sanctions turned out to be. But let me ask you about a a personal aspect of all of this, because we know that Jens Stoltenberg, his term ends on the 1st of October this year, and there were various names floated as possible replacement, including Mark Rutte. Do you think that this will be one of the topics during this assembly?
Most probably, it's a political gathering, so I think there will be such talks, of course, about the future. Although I don't think that these personal issues will come to the forefront. By the way, sanctions is one of the topics that has been discussed all throughout the day today in the Economics and Security Committee of NATO, and I think this is going to feature also very high in the on the agenda. What could also NATO members do to actually because this is a critical aspect of long-term resilience. How can we better enforce sanctions, in particular in Europe? So I think this is also something that we're going to see beefed up, and probably might see it as a new added language in the to the alliance's meeting in Washington.
Ruslan Stefanov, thank you, sir, for being with us this evening and for this very informative talk. Thank you.